Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Six Path Weeb, and I'm glad you're here. Today, we're continuing our fanfic journey with part 2 of What If Naruko Had the Byakugan? Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's get started and explore what happens when the eyes of the Hyuga meet the spirit of the Nine Tails. I heard about your match with the Inuzuka student today, Hyashi said as Naruko took her place at the dinner table. Her expression was a mix of humility and surprise. I heard he landed a strong hit, Hyashi continued. Something about knocking you off your feet. Yes, Hyashi-sama, Naruko replied respectfully. He countered just as I was unsealing his tenketsu points. Hyashi took a slow sip of his tea, expecting her to elaborate. Iruka-sensei had called the match to a stop, but I was mid-technique. When I completed it, my opponent wasn't able to continue right away, but when I unsealed his tenketsu, he tried to resume the fight. To stop it from escalating, I finished with a controlled physical technique from our family style. Yes, I heard about that, Hyashi said, nodding slightly. And from what I understand, it broke through his defense entirely. Yes, Hyuga-sama. By now, Hinata and Hanabi had joined them at the table. While Hinata had seen the match and understood the conversation, Hanabi appeared a little lost. What did I miss? The younger girl asked, puzzled. Something about a finishing move? Just a bit of conversation, Hyashi replied calmly. Naruko was telling me about her sparring match earlier. Hinata smiled gently, remembering the look of joy on Naruko's face during the match, something she hadn't seen in a long time. Remember, Hinata, Hyashi said, drawing her attention back, we have training in 2 hours. Hinata tensed slightly. She knew today's session would be much more challenging. This is unacceptable, Hyashi said with disapproval as Hinata struggled to stand. They had been sparring for only a few minutes, but Hinata already looked worn out. Hyashi had made today's training especially difficult and was not pleased with her performance. I expect more from you, he said, frustrated. Hanabi is already performing at a higher level. You need to put more effort into representing yourself and our clan. Hinata was trying her best to stand, and though Hyashi was still stern, he held back from saying more. Even he knew some thoughts were better left unsaid. Go back to your room and continue your studies, Hyashi said, turning away. We're done for now. After he left, Hinata slowly lowered herself to the floor, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. I'm not strong enough. Why would Naruko ever look at me the way I hope? Naruko was walking past the training room when she heard the sound of quiet sobs. Curious and concerned, she peeked inside, and what she saw made her heart ache. Hinata was curled up on the floor, quietly crying into her arms. She didn't notice Naruko enter until she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. She flinched, trying to pull away, but Naruko gently pulled her into a hug instead. Please let me go, Hinata murmured through her tears. No, Naruko said softly but firmly. The sobbing quieted instantly. And Naruko, Hinata whispered, her sadness now mixed with embarrassment. I should go. Not yet, Naruko said kindly. Please listen to me first. Hinata nodded, not trusting her voice. I may not be the smartest, Naruko began, but I can tell when something's wrong. You haven't stuttered in over a year. Something serious must have happened. Please tell me, Hinata-chan. As Naruko gently loosened her hold, Hinata instead wrapped her arms around her, hiding her embarrassment in the warmth of her friend's embrace. Father is always strict during training, she began, her voice trembling, but today he seemed even harder on me than usual. I must have done something wrong. There's nothing you could have done to deserve that kind of pressure, Naruko said softly, noticing the effort Hinata had made and the visible marks left by the intense training. I tried my best, but he was disappointed. He said I wasn't living up to his expectations. Naruko stayed quiet for a moment, then spoke gently. I don't care what anyone else says. To me, you're doing amazing. You'll never be a disappointment in my eyes. Hinata's heart fluttered. Being in Naruko's arms, hearing those words, it made her feel like everything else didn't matter. For the first time that day, she smiled through her tears. Hizashi, Hyashi's younger brother, had been on his way to check in on the session when he overheard the conversation. He paused, hearing Naruko's words, and felt a mix of frustration and gratitude. Frustration at Hyashi's approach, but also gratitude that Hinata had someone like Naruko beside her. Even if they don't end up together, Hisashi thought, they'll always share a strong friendship. Later that night, Naruko found herself on the rooftop above her room, her favorite thinking spot. This time, Hinata was sitting beside her, gazing up at the stars. "Thank you for earlier," Hinata whispered. "Don't worry about it, Hinata-chan," Naruko replied with a smile. "I just don't like seeing you sad." Hinata blushed softly. Naruko, however, remained unaware of her deeper feelings. "You're my best friend, Hinata-chan," Naruko continued, "and I'll always be here for you." "You're mine too, Naruko-kun," Hinata said, her voice full of warmth. Naruko smiled at her again, then looked back to the sky, quietly appreciating their time together. The next few weeks passed calmly, although Naruko's reappearance continued to be a mystery to some. No one really asked where she had been, her reserved Hyuga-like responses were enough to keep curiosity at bay. As time went on, Naruko became more comfortable in class and even started opening up to others. She began talking more and laughing with her classmates. A few girls even tried to express interest in friendship beyond that, but Naruko, blissfully unaware, remained focused on her training. Before long, the academy's final exams approached. "Alright, the final exams will cover 3 categories," Iruka announced. "Taijutsu, ninjutsu, and throwing accuracy. I'll explain each section as we go." The class listened attentively. For throwing and accuracy, you must hit the target at least 8 times out of 10. Your performance will affect your overall score. The same goes for the other sections. If you fail 2 categories, you will need to repeat the exam. For taijutsu, you'll be matched against one of your instructors. They won't fight back, but they won't go easy either. We're evaluating technique and performance, not just results. He paused, scanning the class. And ninjutsu will be evaluated individually inside the exam room. Now, follow me. So these are the Jinan hopefuls? A man with a covered eye asked as Iruka approached. "They're a little nervous, but it's to be expected," Iruka replied. The man stepped forward. "I'm Hagoku Jinta, and I'll be supervising the throwing and accuracy portion. When I call your name, step up to the line, select your 10 projectiles, and begin." One by one, students stepped up. Some passed easily, while others faltered. "Sakura Haruno," Jinta called. The pink-haired girl stepped up nervously, took a practice throw, then proceeded to hit 9 out of 10. "Nice work," Jinta nodded. "Hyuga Hinata." Hinata looked nervous but paused when Naruko gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've got this, Hinata-chan," she said, smiling confidently. Encouraged, Hinata stepped up, completed her practice throw, then scored beautifully, her accuracy surprising even herself. Iruka couldn't help but smile. Naruko's influence was clearly helping Hinata grow stronger. "Hyuga Naruko." Naruko walked confidently to the line. "I'll skip the practice throw," she said playfully, then tossed all 10 kunai, landing each one precisely. After a beat, she turned back. "Actually, can I get that practice throw after all?" Jinta chuckled and handed her a kunai. She threw it straight into the center of the target, creating a smiley face pattern with her kunai. Iruka just shook his head, amused. At least it wasn't another prank. Next was the taijutsu exam. "This portion will test your physical skills," a kunoichi explained. "You'll be facing one of us instructors. We won't attack, but we'll defend ourselves. Show your best form and control." The class stood quietly, prepared for the next challenge. "Good. We will be pairing you off 5 at a time. That means only 5 matches will be taking place at once," the instructor announced, retrieving a box from the side of the room. "Each of you will draw a piece of paper from this box and proceed to the mat number written on it." The instructor moved down the line of students, each one taking a slip of paper and heading to their designated spot. Eventually, only she and Iruka were left standing. "So those 2 are in this class, huh?" she asked, eyes lingering on the backs of Sasuke and Naruko. Iruka stepped beside her, nodding with a smile. "Yeah. I have to admit. This class is showing incredible promise." The woman smiled in agreement. "You've got the future leaders of some of the strongest clans in this group. It wouldn't surprise me if this class becomes one of the most successful to ever graduate. But those 2. She gestured toward Naruko and Sasuke. "They really stand out." "You have 5 minutes to show me what you've got," said a teacher with light scars across his face, addressing the student in front of him. "If you can't land a single clean strike, you won't pass this part of the test. This is one-on-one. He glanced at the list in his hand. Inuzuka, Kiba, please come forward. The match began immediately. Meanwhile, Naruko's attention shifted as a wave of cheers erupted from the nearby mat. Sasuke stood there, catching his breath, while the instructor opposite him was down on one knee, trying to recover. Sasuke had clearly made an impact. A few mats down, Naruko noticed Hinata in a focused stance, her instructor struggling to avoid her strikes. Naruko couldn't help but smile at Hinata's determination and how flustered her opponent looked. Someone forgot about the Juuken, Naruko thought with a quiet grin. Then, her name was called. She stepped confidently onto the mat to face her evaluator. Begin whenever you're ready, the instructor said, preparing himself. I'll start the clock as soon as you attack. Naruko assumed her stance, a focused expression settling on her face. A flicker of realization crossed the teacher's features as he mirrored her stance. Byakugan, she said, activating her dojutsu. Naruko launched forward, but her first move was expertly countered. Without hesitation, she pivoted and hooked her leg behind the instructor's, causing him to stumble. 1, she announced calmly. The teacher stood, only to find his leg not responding the way it should. This isn't going to be easy, he muttered, adjusting his posture. 2, Naruko continued, tapping his forearm with controlled precision. She's better than I expected, the instructor thought, weaving defensively. This is the most refined taijutsu I've ever seen from a student. 3, Naruko said, gently making contact with his side. The instructor was growing more and more fatigued, not injured, but clearly overwhelmed. His movement slowed as Naruko remained steady and focused. Hinata, having finished her own match, turned to watch Naruko just in time to see her dash forward, nearly too fast for the eye to follow, and land a strategic blow. That technique, Hinata whispered. It's just like before. She recalled a time when Naruko had shown a similar display of skill during an earlier sparring session at the Hyuga estate. It had left an impression on everyone. The instructor felt like he was moving through water. His body resisted his commands, and he knew she was steadily wearing him down. You are within the realm of my divination, Naruko said softly, shifting into a precise stance. I don't know if I can stop her next attack, the teacher thought. Should I signal the end? But pride and professionalism kept him going. As Naruko charged, he managed a well-timed counterattack. Naruko gasped, holding her stomach and stepping back to regain her composure. The teacher sighed in relief. That was careless, Naruko thought. I should have stayed alert. Hiyashi-sama will definitely notice this. A small smile returned to her face. What's so amusing? The instructor asked, eyeing her carefully. Hiyashi-sama's probably going to be very vocal about this, Naruko replied as she stepped forward. You managed to tag me. That one's on me. The instructor began to feel a bit unsettled by her confident tone. I forgot, Naruko said, that even the best defenses are designed with offense in mind. I underestimated the counters. As she advanced, the instructor realized she'd only been holding back before. She was now fully engaged. 6, she murmured as her touch briefly connected again. Moments later, another soft whisper reached his ears. 12. What is she doing? He wondered, as his movements began to lag. He couldn't keep track of the touches, he couldn't tell how she was affecting his chakra, and it left him uneasy. Then, he heard the timer ring. Well done, Hyuga, the instructor said, impressed as Naruko walked over and began gently unsealing the chakra points she had targeted. You're truly gifted in taijutsu, beyond what's expected of your age. Thank you, sensei, Naruko said politely as she helped restore his energy flow. Nearby, Iruka turned back to the kunoichi beside him. You were right, Miharu. Those two really are something else. Later, Iruka stood before the group once more. When I call your name, proceed into the classroom for the ninjutsu portion of your exam, he announced. Students were called one by one, gradually emptying the room. Hyuga, Hinata, said a silver-haired teacher, opening the classroom door. Hinata rose, her expression calm though her heart fluttered with nerves. After a few minutes, the teacher returned. Hyuga, Naruko. Naruko stood and walked to the testing area confidently. All right, Naruko, Iruka said, checking his notes. You'll need to demonstrate Kawarimi, Henge, and Bunshin no Jutsu. For Henge, I want you to transform into Mizuki-sensei. For Bunshin, I'll need at least 3 solid clones. Naruko nodded. She began by swapping places with a chair across the room, then transformed into Mizuki-sensei with precision. The final technique, though, was trickier. She remembered something Hyashi had told her about her chakra control, how she often used too much. "Sensei," Naruko said, preparing herself. "You said 3 clones, right? Is there a maximum?" Iruka blinked. "No. Not officially." "Why? Could I perform this part outside? There's not much room here." Iruka paled slightly but gave a hesitant nod. Naruko leapt gracefully out the window and landed with ease before forming the necessary hand signs. Moments later, the field was filled with well-formed clones, far beyond the expected number. "Very good, Naruko," Iruka said, giving up counting once he reached 30. "You pass." As Naruko entered through the other door to receive her forehead protector, she was immediately embraced. "You did it, Naruko-chan," Hinata exclaimed joyfully. "And so did you," Naruko replied warmly, hugging her back. "I'm so happy." Hinata beamed, closing her eyes. "We're both Jinan now." A few of the girls nearby watched with quiet envy. For the moment, Hinata's joy was undisturbed, and Naruko, always full of quiet strength, stood beside her, a proud new kunoichi of the hidden leaf. "Know that I'm very proud of both of you," Hyashi stated, a smile gracing his lips. "I'm confident you'll grow into exceptional shinobi." "Thank you, Hyashi-sama," the two replied in unison, offering polite bows. "Remember, the pride of the Hyuga clan rests on your shoulders." "So," Neji said, dodging a well-aimed strike to his chest, "you've finally graduated." Naruko blocked the counter and moved in to break Neji's defense. It was actually kind of underwhelming. "The graduation exam." Neji responded swiftly, tapping a tenketsu near Naruko's side, but she quickly retaliated and blocked one in Neji's forearm. "Well played," Neji acknowledged, realizing his left hand could no longer channel chakra effectively. "But what surprises me," Naruko continued while trying to deflect a flurry of punches and kicks, "is that it was too easy. Everyone passed. I don't think that was the real test." Neji swept Naruko's legs from under her, but as she fell, she caught Neji's leg with hers, pulling him down as well. "You let your guard down," Neji said as he stood up. "So did you," Naruko replied with a playful smile. "Anyway," Neji resumed, returning to their earlier topic, "I can't tell you what to expect from here. There may be more to it than you think." "I figured you'd say that," Naruko sighed. "Guess I'll find out soon enough." Neji smiled at his companion. "You'd better get ready for dinner. Hyashi-sama won't be pleased if we show up looking like we've been sparring all evening." That night, Naruko found herself unable to sleep. After tossing and turning for a while, she eventually climbed up to a familiar spot on the manor rooftop. "I knew I'd find you here," Hinata's gentle voice broke the silence. "You couldn't sleep either?" "You know me too well," Naruko replied with a small smile. She gazed up at the stars. Nights like these might become rare now that she'd officially become a Jinan. She was nervous about what was ahead, but that nervousness was buried beneath layers of excitement. Whatever lay in the future, she was ready to face it. "So?" Naruko asked after a few quiet minutes, "does it look good?" Hinata tilted her head for a moment before realizing Naruko was referring to the forehead protector she now wore proudly. She smiled. "Yes, it suits you," Hinata said sincerely. The Hittite 8 gave Naruko a more composed appearance, but Hinata also liked the way Naruko's hair framed her face without it. "Hey, Hinata-chan?" "Yes, Naruko-chan?" A soft pause followed between the two. "We did it." "Yeah." They talked quietly for nearly an hour until Hinata yawned softly. "Getting sleepy?" Naruko asked, already knowing the answer. "And no." Hinata replied quickly, only to be caught in another yawn. Naruko chuckled at the sight of her friend's blushing face. She could tell Hinata just wanted an excuse to stay with her a little longer, but it was clear she was ready to doze off. "You should probably get some rest, Hinata-chan." "I'm not sleepy at all," Hinata whispered before gently leaning her head against Naruko's shoulder. "Not sleepy, huh?" Naruko smiled knowingly. Her friend's quiet snores answered for her. "Wow. Even her snores are gentle," Naruko thought with a soft laugh. "Guess I'd better." Her thoughts paused as her eyes caught movement on a rooftop far across the compound. "You're not Anbu," Naruko whispered, narrowing her eyes as she activated her Byakugan. She could make out the man's face clearly and even saw his lips form a phrase she chose not to repeat. Within moments, he was gone, moving quickly toward the village border. Naruko's only thought, Hyashi-sama needs to know immediately. Dash. Hyashi-sama. Naruko called as she rounded the corner leading to his room. Hyashi-sa. She stopped abruptly at the sight of several Hyuga branch members gathered silently outside the elders' quarters. She was about to push through but paused after hearing murmurs about a figure seen earlier. So the guards had noticed too. Silence, Hyashi's firm voice echoed through the corridor. Immediately, the hallway fell still. I understand there was an intruder. I've been informed he was well equipped and left too quickly to be anything less than jounin rank. What I don't understand, he continued, eyes narrowing, is how not a single one of you saw his face. Many of the shinobi looked disappointed in themselves, though some maintained their usual stoic composure. No one saw the intruder's face? Hyashi repeated with growing frustration. I did. The group turned to see Naruko standing behind them. The guards hadn't noticed her approach, but they remained calm. You saw his face, Naruko? Hyashi asked, a flicker of relief on his face. After she nodded, he motioned for the guards to return to their posts, instructing them to remain alert and to keep their Byakugan active. Naruko, Hyashi began as they entered his study, what are you doing awake at this hour? I couldn't sleep, Hyashi-sama, she answered. Hinata-chan and I were watching the stars from the rooftop when I saw him. Hyashi raised an eyebrow. She. Fell asleep on my shoulder, Naruko added sheepishly, scratching the back of her head. I was going to carry her to her room when I noticed the figure. I see, Hyashi replied. I'm sorry to place this on you so soon, especially with tomorrow being your first official day as a Junon, but I'll need you to describe the intruder to the Hokage. Yes, Hyashi-sama. The Hokage stared at the transformed version of Naruko for several moments after the sketch artist beside him stopped drawing. And you're certain this is what the individual looked like? The Hokage asked, taking a thoughtful puff from his pipe. Yes, Hokage-sama. I was about to go inside when I noticed him on a rooftop several hundred yards away, the Hyuga shinobi explained. The Hokage chuckled lightly at the comment. Had anyone besides a Hyuga said it, he might have thought it was exaggerated. But he quickly noticed me. I'm not sure if he sensed the chakra I used to activate my Byakugan, but after spotting my gaze, he muttered something. The Hokage and clan head's eyes widened in disbelief at what the blonde girl said next, and then turned around and ran toward the western gates. Naruko fought back a giggle at the startled looks both leaders wore, but decided to speak up. Are you all right, Hyashi-sama? Hokage-sama? The two quickly composed themselves. Yes, quite all right, the Hokage replied. I would suggest not using that phrase again. Yes, Hokage-sama, Naruko responded with a nod, fully aware that it wasn't an official command, and making note of the opportunity that left her. Naruko, Hyashi addressed her with a serious expression, I must ask that you not share anything you saw or heard tonight with anyone. Yes, Hyashi-sama. Now, I recommend you follow the house guards to the compound. You have a busy day ahead tomorrow. You're not coming with us, Hyashi-sama? No, the Hokage and I still have matters to discuss. Have a good evening, Naruko. If you happen to sleep in, Hinata will come wake you. Naruko bowed politely at the waist before leaving the chamber. After seeing her and the guards heading toward the compound, Hyashi resumed speaking with the Hokage. The person she described. Hyashi began, do we have any records of someone like that in the bingo book? Surprisingly, no, the Hokage replied, setting down his pipe and walking toward the clan head. Someone who could pass through our barriers, avoid detection from multiple Byakugan users, and sense chakra use would have to be at least high jounin level. I'm not sure why someone that capable wouldn't appear in our records. What if he wasn't a shinobi at all? Hyashi proposed, turning his gaze toward the Hokage monument. It's possible he received ninja training without ever officially joining a village. Not likely. Our village allows trainees to step away and live as civilians. Other villages are not as lenient. I see. Hyashi began, but their conversation was interrupted as Naruko burst through the doors, much to the dismay of the guards and secretary. What is it, Naruko? The Hokage asked, noting the concern on the girl's face. Sorry. Hokage-sama, Naruko said between breaths, I forgot to mention something. About the man. She dropped to her knees, panting, before standing again. Didn't realize I was this winded. She thought. What is it, Naruko? Hyashi asked, his tone calm but curious. When he was leaving. I noticed something odd about his chakra, she explained, catching her breath. It had a strange color and flowed in an unusual, unbalanced way through his arms and legs. What color was it, Naruko? The Hokage asked. Almost white. But there was still a hint of blue. The Hokage's eyes widened for a moment before he regained his composure. Thank you, Naruko, Hiashi said, gently encouraging her to leave. Now, off to bed. No arguments. Yes, Hiashi-sama. Once Naruko was out of sight, the two continued their discussion. That explains how he bypassed the barrier, the Hokage reasoned. If he created a clone while standing near the edge, it might appear on the other side if the chakra flow was just right. But why would the chakra be so unbalanced? Hiashi asked. It was likely a lightning-style clone, the Hokage explained. And that unique pale chakra color, with a tint of blue, greatly narrows the possibilities. How so? Only one clan is known for that kind of chakra signature. Anbu. 3 Anbu members appeared silently from the shadows. Gather all available intel on the Konda clan from Kumagakure. Check for any recent missing members or unusual activity. You have your orders. The Anbu vanished as quickly as they had appeared. Let's hope this leads to a peaceful resolution. Later that morning. Naruko, Hinata whispered softly as she leaned over the bed, trying to wake the sleeping girl. Naruko-chan, it's time to wake up. Don't wanna, Naruko mumbled sleepily, rolling over. Naruko-chan. Hinata sighed, waking her was proving more difficult than expected. She gently reached over and nudged Naruko's shoulder. We need to head to the academy soon. Father asked me to make sure you ate breakfast. Naruko stirred a little, still caught in a dream about an endless ramen buffet at Ichiraku's. In her dream, she reached out toward the food. And then something didn't feel quite right. Huh? Her eyes snapped open. Ramen doesn't go eep, she said aloud, looking over. Her hand had somehow ended up resting awkwardly on Hinata, who was now flushed bright red. I'm so sorry, Hinata-chan. Naruko sputtered, scrambling to sit upright. The apology came out in rushed, nervous mumbling. Just then, Hanabi entered the room unannounced. Father says to hurry up. The food's getting cold. Why yes. The two responded in unison, their faces both bright with embarrassment. Hanabi gave them a puzzled look, then turned and left, deciding not to ask any questions. I'm really sorry about that, Hinata-chan, Naruko whispered, unable to meet her eyes. It's okay, Naruko-chan, Hinata replied kindly, though still visibly flustered. Let's just get going before father comes looking for us. The very idea motivated Naruko to get dressed in record time. She took Hinata by the hand, and the two rushed downstairs together. I'm surprised Hiashi-sama didn't question why we were late, Naruko muttered as they walked toward the academy. I'm just thankful he didn't, Hinata replied with a blush. I really am sorry about earlier, Hinata-chan, the blonde said for what felt like the 20th time. It's fine, really, Hinata replied with a soft smile. Then, with a teasing tone that startled Naruko, she added, I'll just have to return the favor someday. Naruko paled slightly. Hinata's playful side had been growing lately, and Naruko wasn't sure how to handle it. She remembered how her pranks used to border on outrageous, like that time she left color bombs at the Uchiha compound entrance. She'd barely avoided being caught, thanks to her skill in vanishing without a trace. Hinata giggled at Naruko's uneasy expression. She was enjoying this far too much. I'm glad one of us is enjoying it, Naruko said dryly. Naruko, Hinata. A familiar voice called. They turned to see Nara Shikamaru approaching. Hey, Shika, Naruko greeted casually. Pretty good morning so far. Kuji's busy with his folks, so I thought I'd walk with you. Of course, Hinata said politely. Shikamaru gave them both a knowing look. You two look a little tense. Something happen? There was. An awkward moment this morning, Naruko admitted, glancing shyly at Hinata. And she said she plans to return the favor. Hinata smiled sweetly, while Naruko blushed deeper. Shikamaru laughed. I'd stay on your toes, Naruko, Shikamaru chuckled. She'll probably catch you off guard. That's what worries me, Naruko muttered. We live under the same roof. How am I supposed to sleep at night? Probably very carefully. Shikamaru replied with a smirk. Naruko let out a small sigh as she looked forward, her voice quiet. This probably won't go well for me. All right class, settle down, Iruka said as he stepped into the room with a firm tone, it's time to assign your teams. The classroom slowly quieted until everyone gave him their full attention. As new Jinan, you'll be working in teams of 3 under the guidance of a Jounin instructor. This method is part of our tradition and training structure, Iruka explained. Once you've successfully completed a set number of missions, your instructor may recommend you for the Chunin exams. As Chunin, you'll keep your 3-person squad as a foundation, though you may lead larger groups during more advanced missions. When you reach the Jounin level, you may work independently, in joint missions, or even train new Jinan teams. You'll also be eligible for all Chunin level responsibilities and beyond. He looked around and nodded as he saw he had their attention. You may have reached the rank of ninja, but this is only the beginning of your journey. It's through patience, learning, and hard work that you'll grow into elite shinobi, Iruka encouraged them. But before any of that happens, you need to meet your teammates and instructor. When I call your name, please sit next to your team. Flashback. Hokage-sama, are you certain about this? Iruka asked, feeling uncertain. I'm sure, replied the third Hokage. Your initial team suggestions were very thoughtful, Iruka, but some new considerations have come up. I had to make changes. But sir, this disrupts the balance of the teams. You must look beyond family ties and see the potential of each individual student. My team assignments are intentional. I believe they will prove themselves in time. Have faith. Yes, Hokage-sama. End flashback. Teams 1 through 6, Iruka called, finishing his list, head to the training grounds. Your Jounin instructors will meet you there. Mizuki-sensei will guide you. Once those students had exited, only 9 remained. Iruka motioned for them to move to the front rows. Is something wrong, sensei? Ino asked. Her blonde hair framed her puzzled expression. Not wrong. Just complicated, Iruka responded. What do you mean? Asked Sasuke, his gaze fixed seriously on Iruka. I was asked by the Hokage to share some important information with you all, Iruka began. Kiba, he nodded toward the boy with brown hair and red markings, Shikamaru, who tried to sit up straighter, and everyone else, I need your full attention. The classroom went still, students sensing the importance of what was about to be said. Last night, someone from another village entered our village unnoticed, Iruka explained carefully. We believe it was a shinobi from Kumagakure. The Hokage is still working to determine the purpose of the intrusion, but we have some suspicions. He glanced over at Naruko and then at Hinata, both girls now looking more alert. This incident was serious, and though we aren't expecting anything further right away, the village has moved into a cautious state, he continued. Because of this, the Hokage has revised the team assignments. Initially, we had planned to split you into 3 different types of squads: combat, tracking, and support. But given the situation, the structure has changed. Naruko stayed quiet, having suspected something unusual. Hinata reached over gently and gave her a reassuring squeeze on the arm, silently remembering past events in her own clan. The Hokage now believes there may have been interest in certain unique abilities within our village, Iruka added, so team formation had to be reconsidered. A quiet unease spread across the group. It was rare for the Hokage to personally reorganize Jinan teams. Team 7 will consist of Inuzuka Kiba, Uchiha Sasuke, and Yamanaka Ino, Iruka announced. The 3 stood and moved to sit beside each other without comment. Team 8 will include Nara Shikamaru, Hyuga Naruko, and Hyuga Hinata. The girls exchanged glances as they moved to sit with Shikamaru. Team 10 will be Aburame Shino, Akamiki Kuji, and Haruno Sakura. Excuse me, sensei, Sakura said politely, raising her hand, isn't it unusual to have 2 members from the same clan on one team? Iruka nodded. Normally, yes. But under current circumstances, it's been approved by the Hokage. It won't matter much who is on which team right now, a calm voice added as a silver-haired man entered with 2 others. You'll all be training together. The team setup is mainly a starting point. He paced in front of the students, scanning their faces. I understand why the Hokage chose this arrangement, another man with black hair said quietly to the woman beside him. He held a cigarette between his fingers. I watched their final exams. These 9 were some of the strongest in their class. We haven't seen them in real-world situations yet, the silver-haired man replied, his visible eye watching the students carefully. This is going to be a defining period for all of you. You'll either thrive, or you'll struggle. But that's what training is for. The students shifted uncomfortably but remained attentive. You've been selected to join the Hino Cage apprenticeship, the silver-haired instructor explained. For the next 3 months, you'll be undergoing advanced training. It won't be easy, you'll be pushed past your limits, and then further still. This is not a fantasy world. You're going to learn everything a shinobi needs to know, and it will take effort. He paused, letting his words sink in. If you're thinking of backing out, now's the time. We won't force you. But if you stay, expect to work harder than ever before. No one moved. You have 3 days to prepare. Then, you'll be taken to a special training camp. You'll live there together, without contact from the outside. No letters, no visits, no distractions. You'll become a team, one unit. When we're finished, you'll understand what it means to truly earn the title of Shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. The group had been granted 3 days to enjoy some well-earned rest and say farewell to their families. Interestingly, while the students had never heard of the program before, many of their parents reacted with wide eyes when told about it. Few took the news calmly. At that moment, Naruko was seated at one of her favorite places, Ichiraku Ramen. "Hey, old man. Guess what?" the cheerful blonde called out, after making sure no one else was around. "Hey Naruko. What's got you all fired up today?" The friendly, middle-aged man responded as he walked to the front, carrying a large pot brimming with hot ramen. "Have you ever heard of the High No Cage program?" "Actually, yes," the man replied, catching the young girl off guard. "It was a program created by an old friend of mine. The Shadow of Fire initiative was originally designed to train an elite group of young ninja who would serve as the Hokage's personal team or act as special commanders in times of need." Naruko listened intently, clearly intrigued by how much Tucci knew. The program was meant to develop the top talents of each generation, training them in everything a true ninja must master: terrain awareness, time management, gathering information, using tools, hand-to-hand combat, elemental techniques, illusion techniques, and even understanding the physical world around them. It was about preparing them to be adaptable and ready for any challenge under any condition, Tucci explained as he began filling one of Naruko's bowls with ramen. Ayame had already set aside nearly 20 bowls just for her, as usual. The program was all set to launch back in the day, but after a major crisis, the plan was put on hold. The village suffered a lot, and many ninja were injured or had to step back. Since then, the project has been sitting on paper, waiting to be revived. Tucci placed the bowl in front of Naruko but noticed she hadn't immediately dug in like she usually did. He began putting the pieces together. "So, they've started it again, haven't they?" "Yeah. There are 9 of us in total. And I made the cut," Naruko said, eyes fixed on her ramen. "Congratulations, kid." "Huh? You should be proud. To be accepted into the High No Cage means you're among the best of your generation. That's something worth celebrating. This bowl's on the house." "Are you serious?" "Of course," Tucci chuckled as he took the pot back to the kitchen. "You're the best, old man." Dash. The gentle sound of flickering candles echoed softly in the bamboo-lined ceremonial hall as the Hyuga elders sat quietly. After a respectful silence, 2 figures appeared at the entrance and made their way toward the altar. Upon arrival, they knelt gracefully and settled into the traditional seiza position, placing matching candles before them. One wore a white kimono adorned with sakura blossoms dancing across the fabric, while the other wore a soft pink kimono with blooming dogwood branches stretched across it. As they bowed their heads, an elder, Hyashi, stood in front of them and lit a candle with a steady hand. "Blessed be this ceremony," Hyashi declared, his calm voice resonating through the room. Though no echo followed, each word settled deep in the hearts of all present. "Hi, Hyuga-sama," came the respectful reply from the council members. The 2 at the altar remained silent and still. "We of the Hyuga clan have been given an incredible honor. 2 of our own have been selected for the High No Cage program. Not only are they part of the first group to enter this historic initiative, but they also represent our clan with pride as the only pair from the same family to do so." Hyashi looked to the 2 figures before him. "When your name is spoken, raise your head." "Hyuga. Hinata." The soft-spoken girl raised her head, her eyes meeting her father's. A small smile passed between them before she gently closed her eyes once more. "Hyuga. Naruko." Some elders exchanged uncertain glances, but within the Hyuga, tradition always took precedence over doubt. Naruko lifted her gaze toward Hyashi, who had long treated her like family, and then closed her eyes in calm reverence. "Rise, and accept the title of Hyuga clan shinobi." The 2 stood and turned back toward the entrance. With eyes closed, they were led down the walkway by Hyashi, who bowed his head slightly as each council member gave a respectful nod. At the end of the path, Hyashi signaled them to face forward once more. "Open your eyes, my children." They obeyed, and the entire council bowed deeply in unison. "From this day forward, your trials will grow, and your journey will take you far. But remember, this life is uniquely yours. Cherish it, and continue to grow into the remarkable shinobi you were meant to be. Thank you, Hyuga-sama, the two girls replied together, kneeling respectfully. Tonight, you will bear the mark of the Hyuga clan. Later, Naruko and Hinata walked side by side, chatting and laughing. The ceremony had been elegant and light, something Naruko appreciated, especially after several sleepless nights. At the end, both had been led into a quiet room, where a simple tattoo of the Hyuga symbol was placed on their right shoulders. Other than a bit of itching, they felt great. As the sun rose, the 9 selected students gathered at the designated meeting place, all proudly wearing sleeveless shirts that showed off their new marks. I didn't know every clan was doing this, Ino remarked as she walked over to Hinata. I wonder if it's a special symbol for the Hino cage. Could be, Kiba chimed in with his usual energy. I know Anbu have tattoos, so maybe this is similar. The group was buzzing with excitement, until a calm but authoritative voice cut through. My name is Hatake Kakashi. From this point forward, you'll refer to me as Teiko, the silver-haired man said, stepping into view. I'm not here just to teach you. I'm here to train you, push your limits, and help you become something greater. I've been placed in charge of the Hino cage because I was one of the best in my time. If any of you are unsure, now is the time to walk away. The students glanced at one another nervously, but no one moved. Kakashi smirked slightly. Good. Follow me. 3 hours and a forest jog later, the group arrived at the ocean's edge, where a small boat waited. You 9 are going to that island, Kakashi explained, pointing to what looked like empty sea. You can't see it from here, but it's out there. The boat has 8 oars and 1 rudder, 8 of you will paddle, 1 will steer. Who's steering, Teiko? Sakura asked. That's up to you. With that, Kakashi sprinted across the water and vanished into the distance. Did he just run on water? Kiba blurted out, wide-eyed. Anyway. Who wants to steer? Naruko asked brightly. A few hands went up. Okay. Choji, Sasuke, Shino, Kiba, and I are probably the strongest, so we should paddle, Naruko suggested, earning a few groans and a nod from the others. I'll help too, Hinata offered. It'll be good for my arm strength. That makes 6 of us, Choji counted. 7, Shikamaru added as he stepped forward. Ino, you can steer, Sakura said. Just keep us from hitting anything, okay? Don't mess this up, forehead, Ino teased. Just get in the boat, pig, Sakura huffed. After some initial struggling, the group got into a solid rhythm. That is, until a stone flew through the air and lightly bounced off Shikamaru's head. Wait, what was that? They're tossing stuff at us, Sakura shouted. They're testing our focus. Dodge. Kakashi's voice echoed. He tossed another rock their way. It's your job to guide the team, Haruno. The rest are the muscle, you're the mind right now. Watch it. Naruko called as a rock narrowly missed. Despite their best efforts, the students found dodging and rowing at the same time a real challenge. This isn't working, Shikamaru muttered. We're not making progress. We can't stop rowing though, Kiba insisted. Did he say we had to row? Shikamaru asked, looking at the others. Choji looked up. You've got a plan? Yup. Everyone, pull your oars in. The others hesitated but obeyed. Gather at the back of the boat to balance it out. As they moved, Choji stepped forward. All right, he said with a grin. Let's go. Body expansion. Both of the boy's arms expanded rapidly, growing to many times their original size, allowing him to paddle the entire group swiftly toward the island. However, the rain of rocks didn't let up. In fact, it only intensified, coming faster and more frequently. Naruko. Hinata called out, concerned. We've got to cover for her. If she gets slowed down, we'll all fall behind. The blonde kunoichi gave a determined nod and positioned herself to the right and slightly ahead of the paddling boy, while Hinata mirrored her on the left. Byakugan, they declared together. The two kunoichi worked in sync, doing an impressive job blocking most of the projectiles. But just as the rocks ceased and they began to relax, several figures were spotted sprinting toward them. Oh! Kiba muttered. 3 hours later, 9 exhausted apprentices stood on the shore beside a perfectly intact boat. That performance was underwhelming. The team turned to face a group of 5 shinobi, 4 of them masked, clearly Anbu operatives. The 5th was the familiar silver-haired man from earlier. You didn't give us any warning, Sakura exclaimed. Do you expect your opponents to announce their intentions? Asked the Onbu wearing a cat mask. And no, Sakura replied quickly. But you're not our enemies. You might want to reconsider that mindset, the woman answered. We may be your allies, but to train you to become capable shinobi, we must challenge you as if we weren't. Anyway, the silver-haired man stepped in. That was disappointing. It took you almost 5 minutes to react meaningfully, and nearly 10 more before you realized that simple paddling wouldn't get you anywhere. If this had been an actual escort mission, your opponents wouldn't be throwing rocks, they'd be far more dangerous, and your client's safety would have been compromised. But, sensei, Hinata began hesitantly. No excuses, the man replied firmly. You failed to reach the island safely and didn't launch a single jutsu when your enemies closed in. You waited until the last moment to act. Many of the young shinobi lowered their gazes. Some were frustrated, others disappointed. I don't care what talents you think you have, there's always room to grow, the man continued. My job is to remind you that improvement is endless and necessary. He gestured toward the group. From now on, you're a single unit. There's no top of the class or bottom of the class. If one of you is struggling, the entire team suffers. Your success depends on lifting each other up. That caught their attention. No rankings? No labels? What had they signed up for? As I told you, my name is Hatake Kakashi. But you won't call me sensei. A sensei might guide you, comfort you, I'm not here for that. You will refer to me as captain. I've earned the title, and if you think otherwise, you're welcome to try proving me wrong, though I advise against it. Sasuke and Kiba exchanged uneasy glances. Before we continue, Kakashi said, let's talk about discipline. You will learn the position of attention. Feet together at a 45-degree angle, knees slightly bent, not locked. Back straight, shoulders back. Arms at your sides, fists closed with thumbs outside. If anyone here misbehaves, appropriate discipline will follow, and I promise a respectful yet serious environment for all. No exceptions. He walked among them, correcting stances and posture one by one. This is the posture you will maintain during inspections, in the dining hall, during training, and any time I'm addressing you. Do I make myself clear? A few murmured responses came. I said, do I make myself clear? More voices responded this time, stronger but still uneven. Louder. Yes, sir. They echoed. Much better. You'll follow the Onbu to your quarters, boys on one side, girls on the other. You'll each receive 5 training uniforms. Take care of them. If you damage one, that's one less you have. I expect discipline, cleanliness, and effort. With that, the Onbu led the students away. Kakashi allowed himself a small smile. Sometimes, it felt good to inspire improvement. Being the captain overseer of the High No Cage project was a rare opportunity, personally offered by the Hokage. But at this moment, Kakashi was starting to feel the exhaustion set in. He rubbed his temples and sighed. What in the world is the academy teaching these days? He muttered. They don't even know the basics of posture and field respect. And climbing trees without using hands? Unheard of. He'd spent the last 3 days drilling them on basic coordination and routine. On the 4th day, he was beginning to feel the pressure of the job. And a developing headache. Still, perseverance was part of a shinobi's path. Being a shinobi didn't mean being a tool, or just learning jutsu. It meant endurance, in all things. In frustration, in physical effort, in spirit. A shinobi never gives up, no matter how difficult the task. That was their honor. Still, this group was testing his patience. What's with that guy? Kiba exclaimed while trying to straighten his bedding. You tell someone to stand tall, and suddenly it's a crime to stand up straight? You locked your knees, Shino replied calmly. After the first correction, you should have adjusted. Kiba flushed at the comment. I don't know, Sasuke said with a smirk, I don't mind a little comedy around here. Why you? Let it go, Shikamaru interrupted lazily. Seriously, though, this place isn't what I expected. I thought it'd be tough, but not like this. Yeah, Naruko added with a nod. I didn't think anyone trained this hard. 2 weeks had passed since their arrival, and the silver-haired captain still found himself occasionally questioning his choice. Later, while leading the group through the surrounding wilderness, Kakashi turned to the group. What's going on with you? Ino stammered, lowering her gaze. You're already this far in, quitting isn't on the table, he said. But if you truly don't think you can do this, then don't return to the barracks tonight. What? Ino gasped. I said don't return. If you give up, you're not just giving up on yourself, you're giving up on your teammates. Your friends. Your goals. Ino buried her face in her hands, tears escaping. You'll let down your family, your friends. And your father. Her sobs slowed. You can't afford to stop believing in yourself. Then, quietly, she said, no. Kakashi gave her a sharp look. Then stand tall and prove it. No, she said again, this time stronger. Then show me, he challenged. I will, she shouted. Prove me wrong, Kakashi said. Because right now, I'm not convinced. I will prove you wrong, she yelled. Louder. I said, I will. I don't think I heard that right. Could you repeat that sentence one more time? I said, yes sir, I can. I'll prove you wrong. You'd better. Now, return to your barracks immediately. With determination, the blonde girl marched back to her friends. For someone with such mental focus, she was surprisingly easy to motivate. Commented a cat-masked Anbu as she leapt down from a high perch. She just needed the right encouragement, Kakashi replied calmly. She's always wanted to follow in her father's footsteps. I simply used that to inspire her. We all have dreams, it's about knowing how to connect with them that matters. You're expecting a lot from these students? The masked Anbu asked. I'm not just expecting good results, the silver-haired ninja said firmly, glancing at his comrade. I'm expecting their very best. 2 months. That's how long it had taken Kakashi to get his team to where he believed they had the potential to be from the start. By now, each of them could easily walk on water and climb trees using chakra. Despite forming friendships, they were always alert. Training under an Anbu captain known for pushing boundaries was no small task. Many of the high-no cage trainees remembered seeing Captain Hatake casually walking through the village reading a book. They had no idea the same calm person was capable of orchestrating such intense training. At the time, they might have called it overly strict, but his results spoke for themselves. Despite how exhausting it was, his students were improving rapidly. Now that we've built a strong foundation, Kakashi announced to the group, standing before his small squad, it's time to determine where each of you shines. Today, we test your strengths across the core disciplines of ninjutsu, taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and stealth. Don't worry, he added with a slightly mischievous look, you'll still have time for your daily workout. Many of the young ninja in front of him looked deflated. They'd been through non-stop training since day 2, and every time they got used to it, something new and more challenging would be added. First, Kakashi introduced what he called a jog, which turned out to be closer to a long-distance marathon. Once they adjusted to that, he added weighted bands to their legs. 2 pounds quickly began to feel like 200. After they'd adapted again, he introduced swimming, 3 laps around the island. Just when that became manageable, the routine was changed. Now, hidden Anbu would toss harmless projectiles into the water, forcing trainees to sharpen their awareness while swimming. The group often joked that something unusual must have happened to Kakashi during his own training years. Naruko once asked Shikamaru to document their growing theory about it, just for fun. The tests Kakashi promised turned out to be as eventful as expected. And sure enough, just as Naruko and Shikamaru predicted, a new twist was added. This time, they would dive into the water, swim for a minute, then surface and run across the water's surface when a whistle blew. After another minute, they'd dive again. Worst of all, the number of laps doubled. The new training was explained as a way to split their work, 3 laps swimming, 3 laps running. The team disagreed, but that didn't change anything. And so came this particularly cloudy day. The sea level had risen slightly, and the sky above was dark with heavy clouds. What do you think the odds are it's going to rain, Shika? Naruko asked as the group walked toward their training spot. It smells like rain. I'm not sure, Shikamaru replied with a yawn. Kiba? Pretty likely, Kiba answered after sniffing the air. Honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't started yet. The humidity is really high. But I doubt our generous captain is going to let us skip anything today, Sasuke said, clearly unamused. He'd probably make us practice even if it rained fire. Sounds about right, Naruko muttered, placing her hands behind her head. All right, Kakashi began as everyone gathered. Due to the gloomy weather, you're going to skip the usual jog today. Naruko whispered to Shikamaru, did something miraculous just happen? No telling. But instead, Kakashi continued with a closed-eye smile, you'll be tripling your water drills today. Their faces fell in disbelief. Kakashi, however, seemed quite pleased. Now let me show you why. He quickly disappeared into the trees. The group followed as best they could, though Kakashi's natural speed kept him well ahead. He's unbelievable, Naruko sighed as she ran. Just for a moment, she thought she heard a soft chuckle echo in her mind, but before she could ask anyone about it, Kakashi raised a hand to halt. Before them stood a sight that stole the breath from their lungs. The ocean surrounding the island was erupting into giant funnels of water stretching into a sky so dark it nearly looked black. Lightning flickered across the clouds, and the wind howled around them. A strange reddish glow filled the air. What you're seeing is an extremely rare event, Kakashi said, now commanding their full attention. What is it, Captain? Sakura asked, eyes wide. This is something few ever see, Kakashi explained. A phenomenon where all 5 core elements, fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning, are present in a natural event. Fire from the sun, water from the sea, wind from the storm, earth from the debris being pulled into the sky, and lightning at the center of it all. We call it a joining of the elements. The elements aren't just colliding here. They're interacting, mixing, and reacting together. No one said a word. The students turned their eyes to the storm, amazed and slightly overwhelmed. Though the wind pushed hard against them, their chakra training kept them grounded. All our essential supplies have already been secured underground, Kakashi said reassuringly. You don't have to worry about anything getting damaged. Your task is simple: stay together, stay focused, and stay safe. No laps today, just endurance and teamwork. They blinked at him, unsure if they'd heard that right. It's just the 9 of you now, Kakashi continued. I'll be watching from a distance, but you won't know where I am. This is your challenge. Trust yourselves, and trust each other. With that, he vanished. Kiba summed up the general feeling with a sigh: this mission's getting more intense by the day. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now, but the journey doesn't end here. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's much more coming your way, so stay tuned and stay awesome. Until next time. 6 Path Weeb.